Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing good. I'm joining virtually from Boston, and I really appreciate and grateful for being here. Thank you so much to Besides team for having me and giving me this opportunity to share my work and learning. So the title of this presentation is Learning from Modern Escalation of Cyber Warfare. So we all know that we have witnessed a warfare in the recent time, and there was so many different things going on in the virtual battlefield as well. It was not only the cyber the battlefield like in the ground with the guns and tanks, but well before that there was a battle which was fought in the digital background. So if World War III were to come, it would lead to the end of civilization. There is a very famous Einstein quote on World War IV, which is said that I may not know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So the 21st technology boom can give armies a strategic advantage for high-tech warfare, but can technology make war safer? That's a big question which we all need to ask ourselves. And imagine like the robotic tanks that maneuver themselves across desert terrain, avoiding landmines, drones with enough artificial intelligence to carry out strikes without human operations, next generation uniform to monitor soldiers' heart rates, hydration level, or provide early warning alarms for chemical attack. So if we Google Internet of Battlefield Things, Internet of Things, or IoT, you only find attacks on it. Imagine how much more challenging it would be in an actual battlefield where adversaries want to attack the battlefield as opposed to an attacker in a home who just wants to have fun. So this is about me. Right now, I'm like working as a drone security researcher for DroneSec. I'm a grad student at Boston University, and I'm chair of media and technology for IEEE Cybersecurity (STC). My primary research area includes RF security, threat intelligence, and IoT security. Below is my contact information. So just in case if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I would request everyone to take a snapshot of this particular slide because there are some acronyms which we don't usually use when we are working with in the cyber security. So some of them are like related to signal intelligence. Some of the acronyms are related to the electronic warfare. So which we may use in the presentation because this is cyber warfare. And in cyber warfare, like there's so many different things which is involved. So some of these are the acronyms. I thought it would be good idea to include it here. So let me start with the beginning of this particular year. In the January month, we have seen a lot of cyber attacks, like which was going in the background. So it was like in general, I'm in favor of a well-defined legal terms. However, when it comes to cyber warfare, perhaps ambiguity is in the national interest. So I will offer two reasons. The first is strategic and second is business. You all will be shocked like there is no actual cyber warfare definition till now. The strategic reason is unlike their analogs in the physical domain, the vast majority of cyber operations are designed to take place below the level of armed conflict. So, from election interference to ransomware proxies, our adversaries execute cyber enabled malicious activities to achieve both strategic and tactical ends while injecting ambiguity into the legal analysis of victim states. So, if we define cyber warfare as a very narrow set of circumstances relating to a material impact to critical infrastructure, we inherently provide our adversaries a menu of activities that do not constitute cyber warfare and thus would not authorize our using force in self defense as a countermeasure. So, effectively, if we would be telling our adversaries that so long as their government actors do not cause damage akin to a kinetic weapon, we will restrain our response. So, from the moment we define cyber warfare, we would restrict our operations for responding to malicious activities such as interference in the 2016 presidential election, colonial pipeline, solar winds, NotPetya, Triton, among others, on many others. So it may be better to keep our adversaries guessing as to our red lines. And then there is a witness reason. So many insurance policies have a war exclusion clause that limits coverage in the event of war. So we can see like why insurance companies would do this by looking at the amount of damage Russia has brought on urban areas in Ukraine. So in theory, during wartime, a single insurance company could be on the hook to rebuild entire cities, quickly bankrupting the insurance company. So, following NotPetya, Zurich Insurance latched onto Western governments categorizing the cyber attack as an act of war by the Russian government as justification to invoke the war exclusion clause and deny coverage for claims associated with the attack. So, following this multi year legal battle, some insurance providers have modified their policies to more broadly exclude cyber operations. So, in other words, like the parameters for a payout are narrowing. The more explicit the government is with its definition of cyber enabled malicious activities, the more justification insurance providers have for denying coverage to businesses that fall victim to nation state cyber activities. So this is very big thing. And since the start of the war between Russia and Ukraine, many have referred to it as like the first large scale hybrid war. So, where the warfare involves both cyber attack and boot on the ground. And this attack continued as the war evolved and were followed by counter attacks like against Russian sites. So, the majority of cyber war is conducted by advanced persistent threat, which we also call the APT groups. Dozens of collectives such as hacktivist, hacker groups, and non-ransomware gangs like Conti and are coming. Like there are so many different projects which were there, and each of them has sided with either Russia or Ukraine over the past weeks. And in addition to use social media to communicate with the public, many of these groups have turned to the dark web and it's a safe space to coordinate attack against specific sites or chat channels associated with either Russia or Ukraine, often in an effort to take them down. So you might have seen like there were a lot of groups on the Telegram which were very active. They have decided like the anonymous groups have decided the different sites, and along with that, like we have also witnessed some of the different things like on the Twitter there was a lot of different things going on. Many companies like made their tool available to every of the different companies to defend, like to move their data to cloud. So even Microsoft have published some really good reports. I would recommend that to read it. Microsoft have published two reports, one in the March and then in June. So that is covering like so many different things from the ransomware perspective. What are the different ransomwares which were used, how they were deployed, and before any war starts, there is an information warfare. And this is why it's very important to understand what information warfare is before we proceed to electronic warfare, or which is subset of the same. So every day there is a war taking place on devices which we carry in our pocket. We are most certainly at the white hot center of information warfare. So there's been plenty written about this, and I won't retreat it. But I do want to share that this war is far more aggressive, strategic, and frankly successful that you can imagine. So this new war is not about capturing land as in previous conflict. Instead, in the information war, the territory being won is the human mind. The most visible battle spaces are our online forums like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. But the activity is increasingly spreading to old school, direct actions on the streets in traditional media outlets. So World War III is a guerrilla information war with no division between military and civilian partition. So here is how this warfare works. Digital combatants, often like thought of as a troll. So we pick a story to amplify, often with a short-term news hook. They create a meme, a video, a tweet, or a blog post. The troll use a mix of human assets and automated personas to amplify the story. The message is then pushed into the feeds of sympathetic real people who will amplify it further. If it goes viral or trigger a trending algorithm, it will be pushed into the feeds of a huge audience. Members of the media will cover it, reaching millions more. Can this problem be solved with better automated review and editorial? Hardly. If the content is deemed false, it doesn't matter because it will be taken down. And if amplifier bots get shut down, that really doesn't matter. They are easy to replicate. And the future, as we convincingly predicts it, it only gets worse. And I would like to mention it here that few months before, I guess 3 or 4 months before, there was one report which is published by Indian government from the NSA, the National Security Agency. Ajit Doval, they have published like a really good report on the security for the India, and they mentioned that for the India, the information warfare is the biggest threat. They are not worried about any weapons. China, Pakistan, all of the different things doesn't even matter for them, but information warfare is something which India have witnessed in the last 4 years, and that's like a really big challenge. And this is what like they will be focusing in the next 3 years. So this is that is a great report which discuss about that. And then there is this photo which is called the PNG protest, so which also explain how anyone can easily edit a photo to share critical information at a time when many people in Russia like still don't know the truth of what's happening in Ukraine. So in a recently passed law threatens anyone who shares fake information about the military with 15 years of recent time. So in this particular campaigning, like people were hiding the information in the meta details of the image, and then they were sharing it with everyone on the internet so that they can know about the different things which is happening. So what do you think of a world where every device you own is connected to your mobile phone, and you can like easily use social media, communicate with anyone instantly? Also, you give instructions through your mobile phone, and your coffee is ready while you get ready for your office. So where CCTV's cameras can like identify and stop excessive force before it turns deadly, to wearing sensors which reports with real-time health data to alert patients to emergencies before they happen, or even as drones being used to supporting the first responders. IoT has like transformational impact on our life across vertical sectors. And of course, like we have social credit system which expanded idea to all aspects of life, like judging citizens behavior, trustworthiness. If you are caught like jaywalking, don't pay a court bill, play your music too loud on the train, you could lose certain rights such as like booking a flight or train ticket. And privacy is dead. So there's a whole long list of tasks that IoT is helping us with. So can we say like a world without IoT is like living in a stone age? It may seem like a big claim for some of you, but when you see the bits of IoT reflected even in like the mundane task of our daily life, you will agree to it. So how important it is to our life, and even the question is how secure you think it is, because all of these devices which we are using in our daily life will be sometime like used as a tool of attack against us during the cyber warfare. So here it is an image like which we can see. There are, this is like taken from the digital global image, but there are so many good websites, applications which are available through which we can just purchase the satellite images for 7 days before, 4 days before, for a specific specified area for like as low as $100, 200 or $250. So that image will be like the real time other than what we see on the Google Maps. So these tasks can be done very easily, and this is one example from the India China border. This is like an image from the Maxar, which is like again a satellite images provider company. And during the India China conflict, like there were a lot of things which was happening, and all the media outlets were purchasing the images from these particular websites because they are providing it. So IoT has like a transformational impact across all of the vertical sectors, and the benefits of IoT are undeniable. So it can like bring much of the physical world from industrial assets to commonplace devices to people into a connected ecosystem, resulting in enhanced customer experience and better customer business outcomes. But with all of these things, like IoT is simply collecting data, processing information, transferring data, and it is wonderful in many ways. But unfortunately, technology has not matured yet, and it is not entirely safe. So the IoT environment from manufacturer to users still have like security challenges to overcome, such as manufacturer standards, update management, physical hardening, user knowledge and awareness. So these are like all of the challenges which we are all aware of, and we can like easily use Sudan senses to find all of these particular devices. So to attack, to find vulnerabilities, to see like what versions many of the other persons are using. So IPv4 is like just a door which we just knock and get into it to get some of the details. So if we like look at the CIA triad, so it's like the main objective of the security is highlighted by various model and known to be like confidentiality, integrity, authentication, authorization, non-repetition, availability. So implementing different cryptographic mechanisms can help us achieve these security characteristics. However, it is very challenging to implement these cryptographic algorithms in these devices. And here is a map from Cisco. So this is a Cisco threat model in which we can see like what are all the different attacks and how those attacks are like built on top of one another. So ensuring that each device has the control to maintain data confidentiality and integrity within an organization is necessary. So in addition, like investigation of IoT security along with data integrity holds practical significance in the development. And so this figure like illustrate the security threat map of IoT. The IoT spans like nearly every organization and function. Associated edge devices now expose a series of vulnerabilities and exploited by all traditional actors. So the most vulnerable part of this IoT system with the least impact if suffered an attack is placed on the top of the pyramid, like over here. So sensors sit on the top as they are the most vulnerable, being the most accessible part of the device. And the next vulnerable part is the communication between the sensors, accumulated data by the sensors. The attackers can get access to this data through sensors by getting into the network. Then comes the hardware abstraction and firmware, which stimulate application programming interface, the API for the interaction between the application and data. Lastly, the least accessible part at the bottom of the pyramid is the hardware platform, such as the SOC and FPGA, which is field programming, programmable gate array, DSP. So even though the hardware platform is at the bottom of the pyramid, it is one that deserves major attention because it has the highest damage impact to a system in case of an attack. It can be said that hardware is the foundation of the system and most pain causing part in the case of cyber attack incident. So here I would like to take one example. It has been realized that true security of IoT devices can only be achieved by securing the underlying hardware of these devices. Vectors have been reported in these ICs used in weapon control system, nuclear power plant, and public transportation system. So there is one really good research paper which was published in 2014 by one Chinese author, and they claimed that using just 1450 logic gates, they were able to create a backdoor in any kind of chipsets. And that is very important to know because using just 1450 logic gates, if they can create a backdoor, even through like if we in the chipsets, like we have almost of thousands of billions of dollars, oh sorry, billions of transistors, and the lowest the detection ratio is like 0.006% right now, which I'm aware of. So having 1500 logic gates is like way below that particular detection ratio. So it's like really hard for the weaponry systems, like if we are importing from some other countries, how should we trust that hardware? How should we trust that there is no backdoor which is being created in that particular chipsets? So DARPA is doing a really good work on top of that for like if some country is importing some weapons from other countries, so how they can check the chipsets. Even like if I take an example of India, so India is importing so many different weapons from so many different countries. So there is like a framework which we follow to test the different hardware, different system, different software, to check for the different vulnerabilities, to check whether that is having some kind of backdoor or not. So this is like still a very big challenge right now, and it is important when we think of a cyber warfare. So there, here we can see like a glimpse of all the radio wave spectrum. How does it looks like, and what are the different devices which we basically use in our daily life. So here the spectrum is visible from 3 kilohertz to 6 gigahertz. So we can see like Wi-Fi, cell phone. So these are like all the different frequency band on which these devices are allocated. So mainly FCC do these allocations in USA, and then again we have NTIA. So we can see like FM radio at 100 megahertz, GPS and phone environment at like 900 megahertz, ADSB signal at 1090 megahertz. So these all are the frequencies. But with like so invisible and ignored, our devices are like currently screaming out large amount of information about us, our habit, our pattern of life to anyone who care to listen. So let's see some example what is commonly being broadcasted and what can we do with this information. So we can like of course create a FM radio. like using GNU radio and USRP Blade RF. With Hake RF, we can do this, and we have also witnessed some kind of related attack in the cyber war, like recently, because the communication was not encrypted, and the people in the army, like Ukraine army, were able to decrypt some of the information. So that all things happened. Then ADSP signal is for the surveillance technology, the for the aircraft to determine its position. So that can be listened using this. Then of course we can use GRGSM and calibrate command. We can listen to MC number. We can decrypt the A3 A5 algorithm to further listen into the call and message. So every mobile has an like MC, which is the international mobile subscriber identification number. This number is unique to every SIM card, and this number is shown on every mobile phone, which is like can be traced with the MC catcher. So the police can like determine your identity easily once they have this unique number. So there is no way you cannot be a victim except you are not in an area where the MC catcher network is. And these are some of the vulnerabilities which we see in the radio environment. So we all know like Wi-Fi uses radio to communicate, but so does other 99 plus protocols that make up the world of mobile, cellular, Internet of Things. And all these new radio enabled devices bring with them new invisible threat. Enterprise will need to be able to react to this new threat entering their environment. So sniffing, war driving, evil twin, replay, firmware jamming, these are like some of the all attacks. And like again, as I mentioned, that the Russia war in Ukraine has been marked by its apparent lack of coordination, and then extraordinarily like a float pawn plan, because Russian forces have been observed moving deep into Ukraine only to be cut off by a lack of fuel, vehicle breakdowns, and ultimately the forces. So open source intelligence and Ukrainian reports suggest that radio communication across the Russian forces are poor, leading to makeshift solutions, including the use of unencrypted high frequencies, which we have seen for a long range communication, mobile phones to communicate. There is so much some evidence that soldiers have deployed with some advanced software defined radios, such as like R187P1 and R168, so tactical radios that were carried. So these all are like things which I'm not sure why they were not using the sophisticated technologies. Maybe they are saving their best of tools for the future, but we have seen them like using the cell phones and this HF high frequency radio communications. So electronic warfare has come a long way from the early days of like basic signal intelligence, and has covered a wide variety of technologies and use cases. So modern military forces are required to operate in an increasingly complex electromagnetic environment, which has recently been recognized as an operational environment. And all modern forces like conduct operations that depend on the use of EME. So if we trace back to the history, it's not like that cyber war is happening now, or this is all of a sudden a totally new things. Even from the back like a century, we have witnessed so many different attacks which are like, which we can say like as a technological war. So from the Russia-Japanese war in 1904, that have seen the birth of the signal intelligence. And then moving forward, like the invention of British signal intelligence in the 1914. So we have witnessed it. Then Battle of Britain, in which the radar was born, and the for to track like the enemy aircraft, RAF fighters could be quickly directed to intercept. Then the first industrial scale jamming was witnessed in 1952, where the Soviet Union fought an electromagnetic war on the home front through the Cold War. So it was like before the program came to an end in the 1980, more than 1700 stations were operating with an estimated combined output of like 45 megawatts and costing tens of millions of dollars and a year to run. Then Cuban Missile Crisis, like the first deceptive drones were witnessed. And the best was like the GPS war at the Gulf. So there was like so many different strategies and tactics which were published. Then Stuxnet, we all know. So it was like technology was always there in the different war. It depends like how we were using it. And it is really important at this point to understand the importance of the power range, like how it happens. So this will help us when we will be discussing about the drones and the satellite attack. So if we have like a transmission power of 100 kilowatt, and if we transmit it like from a radar, that point like it will receive at the destination, it will be like let's say if we are transmitting a 100 kilowatt at a distance of 10 kilometer, so the received power will be in picowatts, because the reflected power is like inversely proportional to the radius, inversely proportional to the distance square. So how we use this fact. So we have like radar cross section area. So RCS is a measure of how detectable an object is by the radar. So therefore it is called like the electromagnetic signature of the object. So a larger RCS indicates that an object is more easily detected. So here, like a simple example we can take that, let's say a B-52 at the same distance on the radar will look like a of like 100 or 125 meter square. So at the same time, like with the same technology at the same distance, the RF-22 Raptor will like just look like a size of a B, which is like 0.001. So this is how important it is, and it is impacted by like so many different factors, like the material of which the target is made, the size of the target, then the absolute size, incident angle, the polarization. So there are so many different factors, and these all facts are like now also being used for the drones. And the other important factor for the cyber warfare is the jamming. So there are so many different ways to do a jamming. So jamming is like while interference generally describe unintentional form of disruption during wireless communication. Jamming describe the deliberate interference with or blocking of such communication. So as the name suggests, like jamming antennas are especially used to interfere with the radio noise or signals. And in electronic warfare, these interference are meant to disrupt control of a battle. So there are so many different technology being used during the war. What one? Yeah. So these are like all other different jamming techniques, and the important is like how do we communicate while we are facing a jamming. So this is like a simple example. Let's say if this is my target frequency, the ideal jammer will only block this particular frequency, but this is not actually the case because we always see the frequency hopping. Sometimes like it's distributed over a long distance. So let's say if we are doing a frequency hopping and I know that the frequency hopping is in this particular range, then maybe we can use the sweep jamming in which like we are dividing the power, but that would not be effective because the effective power is divided for a long bandwidth. So the big question is like how do we communicate when we are facing a jamming. So there is like a really good research paper which is published which discusses about this particular technique. So let's say if we have a ally jammer, and these are our authorized devices in the green, and these are my unauthorized devices. So I don't want them to listen to the signal like what I'm doing or what I'm communicating. So I want to do a jamming attack, but during that jamming attack my authorized devices should be able to communicate, but unauthorized device should not be able to. So for that, like we use the QRNT technologies in which we are encrypting the frequencies using the pseudo random number generator, and the frequency jamming frequency will be like encrypted with that particular key. So all of my authorized devices will be knowing that particular jamming key, and it's like we are adding jamming signal to our actual signal. So when the authorized devices receive that particular noise, they will be able to easily subtract the jamming signal because they know the signature, and they will be receiving the actual file. So this is how this particular technique works, and this is broadly used in the EA18G interference cancellation system. So in the INCANS, like we have witnessed this particular system, which is working as like the non-coherent technique. And so this was all about the electronic warfare. Now quickly moving forward, like why is it important? So declaring cyber as an official warfare allows NATO members to improve planning and better manage resources for cyber defense operation. So in the 2016, like they have designated cyber as an official domain of warfare. And again, like military are now trying so many different techniques on top of that, like how they can hack the different battle tanks using the cyber weapons or maybe using the electronic weapons. So if we don't win the cyber and electronic warfare fight, then the next manual may not matter because we are not getting to it. So this is what like we have also witnessed during the Azerbaijan and Armenia warfare, that all of the warfare was fought with the drones. So even though the Armenia army was like so strong, but they were like using the Azerbaijan was like using the drones, and this is why like they were at the perils and advantage. So when we talk about the warfare, we should not ignore the cyber war, and it is the use of the digital attack to attack a nation. So causing comparable harm to actual warfare and disrupting the vital communication systems. Let me check. Time check. Okay, sure. So I will quickly jump to one very important slide. So this is like what exactly is going in the cyber warfare. So modern military forces are like rely heavily on a variety of complex high technology electronic offensive and defensive capabilities. So this is how like the all of the integration is looking like, and we are at the heart of the electronic warfare convergence. So in the era of convergence, like we have cyber weapons, cyber operations, signal intelligence, and all of them are like converging in some one way or different. So like the non-kinetic effect, the insurance, information assurance, ISR, they are previously thought of as a different tactic, but now we think of the electronic warfare as the same thing as we think of the cyber warfare, because the spectrum is said among all of the different things. So this is very important over here. And the big question like which I would leave this particular session is, should electronic warfare technique like deception and jamming be grouped together with seemingly related skills like cybersecurity and signal intelligence, or should they be treated as a different disciplines? So the answer is towards like the convergence by including all the different technologies in a single integrated architecture that is supported by a powerful real-time management software. So in pursuing the vision, systems must become more spectrally efficient, flexible. So the network operations, electronic warfare, cyber operations, these are all like getting together. So the new target of EW will be like to gain the information dominance, that is the operational advantage, and that is going to be like a very big thing for the 21st century. So the new scenario, the new discipline is of the cyber electronic magnetic activities. And I can discuss this particular slide. So in this slide, like we can see the difference between kinetic weapon and cyber weapons. So the kinetic weapons like almost always produce irreversible physical effect, whereas cyber weapons can produce completely reversible effect. So although a small fraction of weapons like for example rubber bullets can deliver a quickly recoverable outcome, most are intended to produce permanent or slow recovery effect, while cyber weapons can produce permanent damage to the physical world, such as the case of Stuxnet, which caused physical destruction of centrifuge. Other cyber effect can be completely reversed by either the attacker or the victim. So, for an example, like when a denial of service attack stops, the target systems return to normal. Encryption, such as used in ransomware, is also reversible given the correct decryption key. Indeed, ransomware relies on reversibility in order to be effective. So demonstration of the capability like to deny access and the subject's belief that it can be undone to predict the victim's willingness to pay ransom. And importantly, like reversibility can be an asset of or a limitation of cyber weapon, because depending on the objective of their use. So it is difficult to reverse engineering and reuse kinetic weapons, since they are typically damaged beyond reuse of a condition of their employment. So because cyber weapons are like often compromised of easily replicable software, they offer more ability for others to observe, analyze, and reuse the weapons by simply copying the software and replaying the context of its employment. So whether separately or combined, cyber and kinetic weapons are now available as strategic instrument of power and present novel opportunities for pursuing national interest. So, given the short history of cyber warfare, many opportunities remain for our future work to deepen the understanding of cyber weapon. As leader gain experience and expertise with cyber weapons, integrated combat, gray zone operations will be strengthened. I am running out of time. There are a lot of good slides to discuss. Okay, so just one quick slide overview I will do. So, whatever operations we do, command and control is really important. In the 21st century, this is how like the digital reconnaissance have came into a picture. So before, like in the 19th century, we were doing like the reconnaissance using the land. Then in the 20th century, we had the air, and now in the 21st century, we have cyber as a reconnaissance. And there are so many different reasons, because these are like all of the justified case studies. So some of them you might be interested to read about. I will share my slide after the presentation so that it would be very easy for you to go through overview of it. And like there are so many different good emergence tools. All right, so I can skip over here. Let me check. Must And this is like again one really good case study from persistent surveillance systems in which aircraft was flying like at a top of 10,000 feet that was doing a surveillance on the city. So every moment, every crime, everything was monitored by that particular aircraft for that was like having a 192 megapixel camera and covering an area of 25 square miles. So that was like a very big project of US government in which like they were doing it. And I think that was like they were doing it on the top of Baltimore city to find murderer. A high resolution camera which you can use, which you can see on the top left image, is placed in the Casena or a long duration drone, and the city is filmed so that one pixel is one person. So the pixel or a person can be highlighted or tracked. Then all event in the field of view are typed and recorded. When an event of interest happens, the recording is rewound, or a physical interaction with that point can be traced. So you are physical object, and if you can be seen from the sky, your every movement can be tracked. But with fast pace of technology, you can see equity parallel camera picture on the right side, which shows stunning clarity of camera systems and can zoom into a specific area or a large space. So a small bike rider or a window sign can be amplified or so dramatically that you can read the fine prints. So each 50 gigapixel camera could like track a 110 kilometer by 110 kilometer of area. So all through like about 1,000 high resolution such camera array could cover the entire USA or China. And with swarm drones and camera arrays, it would be like easy and cheap to do it. So that's not that difficult. Okay, so I will be stopping over here. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on this particular slide. So these are like all of the different slides which I was supposed to discuss. And here is my contact information. So I will drop a slide at that time. Yes, second. Yeah, so you can drop me email, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on Twitter if you have any questions, and I will be sharing my slide with the James so you can connect with him. So I really apologize for being running late, and I'm really thankful for being as an speaker at the B sides. Thank you so much.